Well, finishing. As we all go through our evolution of wood turning, things change. We're constantly evolving. What I would have told you 6 months ago has changed today. And probably in 6 months' time, it will change again. But the basics remain the same, the standards. You have to have a good surface to get a good finish. So it involves all aspects of wood turning, the actual turning, sanding, preparing your surface for the finish. Not essential for finishing maybe, but just a point I usually mark where the #1 jaws go when I've turned a tenon, so that when I replace it in here, I'll line those little tiny marks. Oh yeah, these little tiny marks here up with the edges of the #1 jaw. And when I originally placed this in the tenon to rough turn it, I placed it so that the end grain was between two jaws. I do that on purpose so that when I tighten it down, there'll be equal sort of pressures from end grain and side grain on both sides of the jaws to just kind of equalize things out. And hopefully, if you do that, it's going to run reasonably true. Not too bad.
I think that's in reverse here too.
It is. That was a test. My favorite. Another thing I'll mention is that I like on my laser home is I have a 1-inch collet on here, and I set it to a height that matches most of my tools, so that I can just swing this around and it's going to retain its height. I don't have to chase it all over the place and worry about height each time. So we'll start off, we'll just turn the inside. And that might be in the way. We'll just Another thing that's new to me is this handle. I purchased this from Davey, and I must tell you, it's overtaken my life. It's really fantastic. The ability when I'm going to sharpen something to just go to the sharpener and sharpen it and then put it back in. And I really like the one-way double-ended tool bits as well, so I can have a regular sort of fingernail 40-40 grind, if you like, on this end, and a bottom of the bowl grind on this end. So on one tool, I'm all set. Okay. Another thing which is nice is light. If you have a light on your lathe, you know, shining here, it really helps. Because it looks like I'm down in a cave here at the moment. So nothing really extraordinary about that. The objective is, of course, to get a smooth finish, and it's not too smooth here. A number of things you can do. You can increase the speed with help, but later I'm going to put some finish on this, and I don't want to splatter everybody, so I'm going down to the low range. But Not bad for somebody else's lathe, you know. Now, what I use pretty much on everything, wood and plastic, is what I call my smoothing finishing scraper. It's a double-ended scraper. It has this shape on this end and a round shape on this end. It is a scraper. It's a negative rake scraper. And I sharpen it on a diamond plate. And what I discovered recently, in the last month or so, is that it's important how I sharpen it, which face I sharpen last on here, because it does put a small burr on here. You can just about feel it with your finger. So the important thing is, I know I'm going to finish this way, and all I'm doing here is taking off the hesitation marks and little tiny, and now you guys may not have hesitation marks, but I sure do. So that I get the burr up here, I'll turn it over, and I'll sharpen it first, this way, and then I'll turn it the way I'm going to use it, and I'll sharpen the other side. And that, what that does is put up a little tiny burr on this edge. And this is just held flat. And it just takes little tiny scrapings. And sometimes, because my fingers aren't made of leather, I have this little piece of leather, this little pad that I rest on the outside to stop some of the vibrations. And so I can, you'll notice quite a difference there between that and, whoops. And I'll just smooth it, as I call it, my smoothing and finishing scraper. Not made for taking any amount off, any great amount off. In fact, it's just like sanding dust here, sawdust. And we still have some undulation there. Because when you're in the middle, you really do need a little more speed than I have here at the moment. Now you may have, this is a negative rake scraper too. I mean, it's angled on both sides. It's about 37 degrees, 40 degrees combined, you know, both the sides of it. So it is a negative rake scraper, but any negative rake scraper would do the same thing for you. But all negative rake scrapers need a burr on wood, that is. So if it's not working for you, you have to just quickly, I'm cutting this way, so I can quickly put another little burr on it. It doesn't take much. Notice the difference in that cut. Can you catch? Oh, you're seeing it on the screen, okay. You're seeing it better than me. Take your time. You can't hurry it. We'll just touch the lip as well with the same thing just to smooth it out. Now, what I will do is also just, it's going to be the other way now, so the way that you're going to hold the tool should be the final way you sharpen it. So, am I in everybody's way? just doing the top edge. And this would work again too if you wanted to get some of that vibration out. I'm just doing the top edge because, oh no, I'm doing it here. I'm not doing it like I would do it at home. At home, when I turn it round, I would hold it differently to what I'm going to do here. But so I will be able to get to that top edge when I turn it round. But I think we're probably good enough to sand. Hitting itself underneath it. Now I've sort of converted to this Abranet in the last 6 months or so. I was introduced to it by Ted there, not for wood but for plastic, but I like it for everything. Now this is 180. And you know, if you're doing something for a competition or something, you're going to be a lot more fussy to get the best finish you can. But we're going to do okay. And of course it helps if you have dust extraction. I'm just using, this is off one of those sanding systems, you know, rotating. But I just use it for holding the Abranet. Easier than trying to hold it in my fingers and do that. But it's just for that. It doesn't have to be round, but it helps a little if you're doing the inside of the bowl for it to be round. Okay, so what have we done? We've turned it, we've smoothed it, and we've sanded it. And I always like to finish with a little orbital hand sanding on it to diffract the sanding scratches, diffuse them. They're much harder to see if you do it with an orbital motion. But we're at 180. We're not really, you know, at a fine sandpaper. But if anybody wants to feel that for a 180 finish, it's not bad. Okay. At this point I put some sanding seal on it and I seal the wood. Now this is different to what I've done in the past. I've been doing this for a few months now and it really works well. This is pledge. You've all probably heard Don Moore mention pledge for punky wood. And I used it for years after learning from him how good it was on punky wood. But I use it for everything now. Because what it is, it's a water-based acrylic. And so what it does, it puts a little thin plastic coating on your product, whatever it is. And I like to let it soak in. I'm not mean with it. I want it to soak in. I want it to suck right into the wood as much as possible.
Well, that's not diluted or anything.
No, that's right out of the bottle. Walmart, 9 something or other for a bottle of Pledge floor polish. I used to use, and I used to make my own, I still make my own, and if it's something specifically for children, I will use my own because it's a shellac-based product which has been used for years, and I'm assuming it would have been found to be dangerous if it is. Now, I then kind of push it. I always think of this part as pushing it into the surface of the wood. And I'll speed it up and it will dry quite quickly.
Is that regular paper towel you're using, or is it a shop?
No, this is special 4,000 grit napkins. Oh, damn, we're on tape. Oh, the lens cover's closed, it's all right.
He almost checked it.
I almost did.
Now, at home, I would probably go up around 2,000 plus, you know, but when I'm doing this part, it would just make it quicker, drying it. But now it is dry, right now. So we put a sanding sealer on. Now, of course, if you were in a batch mode where you're making a lot of things, you'd probably put this aside and do the next one to give it even more time to dry. So now we'll take it up one more grit. We were at 180. I'll jump up to 240.
Richard, the reason I asked was, are you not worried about fibers coming out of the paper towel and getting stuck in the finish and in the grain of the wood?
Stuck in the, what are they going to stick to?
The acrylic?
Well, they don't seem to. Now, I say I usually go faster at home. I just don't want to keep changing all the belts all the time. It hasn't been my experience that they stick, Jim, because it dries quite quickly, you know. And then it's coated in the surface of the paper towel, and this goes dry too. And as I say, the way I think of it when I'm doing it is if I'm pushing that into the surface. So now we're at 240. And you can see that there's lines around it. So I do the orbital, which will make a lot of those disappear. And just make it feel smoother. Okay. So the next thing I do now, we're at 240. Now I'm going to use Ford's Nova Silk. This is a sanding and polishing paste. Now, on our website, the Nova Woodturners Guild website, under hints and tips, one of the things is Richard's method for finishing wood and Richard's method for finishing acrylics. And if you click on those, you get a PDF of what I'm telling you now. The only difference is the Pledge floor polish. It's a different sanding sealer, I mentioned in that, but just replace it with Pledge. But all the rest is the same. This is the method. So this is a sanding and polishing paste that I make and sell to those fortunate enough to know me.
Yeah, witnessing an infomercial.
Only those fortunate enough to know me, because, you know, I'm not getting into shipping. So now again, just like the sanding sealer, what I do is, what I feel is I'm pushing it into the surface and drying it, pushing it into the surface and drying it. And it breaks down as you proceed, and will eventually give you about 1200 grit finish. So I use this finish on, I use it all the time now, whatever I'm doing. It works on pens or bowls or vases. No, I'm going to have to, I just can't stand this slow speed. I'm going to have to change it, I'm afraid. Go up at least one anyway. Not bad, I guess. 1600. That's a lot better. Now, the nice thing about the products I'm showing you is you can intermix them. Like if I felt I needed to put some more sanding sealer on, I could put it on right now as well on this same cloth and this same stuff. And I have mixed and matched them a lot, trying different things. They all seem to work well together. Now if you want to put a little more on, just take a little further. Simple. Another use for this is when that's getting warm on your fingers. Two-minute finish. Everybody knows what this is. Shellac and boiled linseed oil. 50-50, same amount of each. Now, last time I used this, there was a certain gentleman in the audience, not to mention any names, who said he'd had some experience with pens where it rubbed off the next day or something. 2 months ago, I did this same finish on this piece of wood. A question was raised a couple of months ago as to whether this finish that I've just shown you will stand up on a pen. This is a little sample I made out of Paduke, sanded to 240, sealed with future floor polish as a sanding sealer, then denibbed at 240. Then I used the Ford Nova silk on it to make it very smooth, shiny, and then I finished it with 2-minute finish. This end I then buffed with the Beal buffing system. This end I left it just as it was with the paper towel on the 2-minute. Then I sat it on my dining room table, and every lunchtime I would do this. My wife thought I had gone nuts. What the hell am I doing? But anyway, it was a test to see how the surface would stand up to a couple of months of rough treatment, much rougher than I would ever, treat a pen, I guess. So I think it shows that the surface stands up very, very well, and it's an excellent pen finish. So that was the purpose of the test, and that was the purpose of this little piece, and I think it's proved its point. So I wanted to know if it could be a problem with pens. I don't think it is. But I have been wrong before, you know. No. Tell me it isn't so. Again, now what I'm doing is how I feel about this is I'm pushing this in and pushing it in and drying it, turn it over a cleaner part of the cloth, the paper towel. I've been told that paper towel is about 4,000 grit. I would guess that's probably about right. Again, the nice thing I like about this, if I wanted to put a second coat right now, all I have to do is that.
Richard, is that actually putting a second coat on or softening the first coat and joining it?
Well, it's disappeared off of here. It certainly would have softened the first one a little bit and added to it. But when I've had not quite as nice a shine as I thought I would like, and I do that, it gets better. So it is either modifying the first coat or adding a little to it.
What did you say is in that, Richard? Is it shellac and?
Yes.
Well, that's a trade secret.
Zinza shellac, you know, in the can. If you go out in one of the big box stores now where they sell Zinza shellac in a can, and boiled linseed oil, equal parts of each. And it's all on the our website, under hints and tips, Richard's finishing.
So Richard, how long does that sit in that container that you have there before it goes funky?
Slowly, the alcohol content of the shellac will dissipate. After about 6 months, it starts to get a little thicker. So if you haven't used, that's why I only put a little bit in there. I have a little container and I put shellac and I put boiled linseed oil. That's it. And as long as it lasts, I use it. And when it's empty, if I think it hasn't been used much and it's getting thick, I'll probably put a little more shellac in it, or denatured alcohol maybe.
You like well, your own scotch?
Oh, I love them. Yes, I have 4 of them. Because they seal it. You can shake it, because it's all run down in here. You take it up, they come with a brush in them. Has a little thing to wipe the brush on. Busy bee. And you can apply them. How much are they?
$8.95.
$8.95.
It went up $2.
Your shellac, do you use orange shellac or the?
Whatever's in the Zinza can of pre-mixed shellac. That's it.
I think it's 3 pound cut shellac. The only way you can find it to look up the.
I think you're right. Yes, if you look it up, like when I inquired about that, that's what they did in the store. They looked it up on the internet, and I think that's what it was. Yeah. But
You say what's premix?
this is butternut.
What?
Butternut. I had a chuck sheet here somewhere. Oh, there it is. Yeah. Butternut.
Brings up the grain.
Is that quite soft, Richard?
Pardon?
Is that quite soft? Soft wood?
It's a softer wood, yes. It's not a hard wood. And that's another reason that the pledge is an advantage, because it hardens it. Now, if with stuff I'm doing at home, I would take this when I've done the other side as well, and I would put it in the house for a week or 2, just to let it cure, you know, the chemical curing and that go on, before I buff it with a BO buffing type system.
Richard, you just used up to 240 sandpaper.
Yes.
The finish is,
240, yes.
so we're wasting our lives.
Yes, sanding. Yes, you should buy my... I have, yes. Well, I don't want to waste my life, but you guys are quite welcome to carry on. I'm looking for something here, if I knew what I was looking for. Ah, there it is. Number 1 jaws marked again. Number 1.
So at home, how long would you be in between those phases of putting on your first your pledge, then your next? How long-
Just like this, really.
Just like that?
Most of the time. Yeah, if I had a production run, you know, I'm making 20 items, I would probably put the pledge on, set it aside, do the next one. But if you're only doing one off, then,
You're not leaving there all the time.
yeah.
And if there is a soft spot or something in the wood, if you're using it for that, you should let it cure it all, right? if you're using it because there's a soft spot in
Yes.
the wood, it's better
Yes.
to leave it like pure
Leave
overnight.
overnight is probably best then, yeah. If you've got punky wood and you're using it for that purpose, yes, you're right, Harold. That's running fairly true, and I credit marking which jaws are on it and putting it back in those jaws and just kind of feeling it.
Have you got the jaws themselves numbered as well?
No,
Number one's always.
I never take them off.
Bones all.
I have another chuck with the other jaws on.
Which you can find on his website, www.
No. It's a one-way, it's a one-way traffic.
Most of them are numbered.
Number one's always.
Well, it's numbered on these, not on the jaw, but on the rack, you know, the jaw bolts do. And I would assume that, you know, that little ring that is on the jaws that's turned on them, that they're all pretty accurate. But I don't, in my case, I don't take them off. But if you take them off, maybe you should number your jaws.
A lot of jaws are numbered already.
Okay.
Nova jaws are all numbered, and
One-way doesn't.
one way doesn't.
Theirs are accurate enough.
There you go.
The technical.
They have a quality part.
Yeah.
1, 2, or
They'll
3
tell you
dots.
That probably would be their answer.
Yeah,
All you
probably.
wanna know.
Yeah. But it does make a difference when you put them on a different way.
Well, you only have to be off really, like a half hour or something like that. And
Yeah.
that does make a difference.
If I only had the time back I spend looking for tools, I'd be 54.
Instead of 95.
Well, just wanted something small to go in the hole. So, you saw that was running fairly true. Shall I put a... Yes, I will. I'll put a little additional, something soft underneath that.
Is that a Richard Ford patented
Piece of paper.
thing on the tailstock?
Oh, it's not patented, it's just an extender.
But you could have one for a small nominal fee.
Just visit his website.
I don't have a website that I sell stuff on. What I'm doing here, I don't know what you can see on there. I'm using the tool rest back up against this face here. Just loose, it's not tightened up. So as I rotate it, I can see when the gap gets wider or narrower. So I can straighten this up so that it will run true. And then when it's true,
Piece that's going up to the others, so it'll fit on your one screw rig doesn't go on the
so most of the time it works fairly well, but sometimes you have to fiddle a little.
Yeah.
There, it's just touching all the way around there now. So, just keep a little pressure on it. Whoop. Yeah,
Long way.
I wish they made them all the same. But, yeah, let's see how we're, yeah, we lost it. Just in that loosening off there. I lost it, no, you guys didn't lose it. Say we lost it.
Really, for what you're doing though, Rich, does it really matter?
I was going to turn the outside.
Oh, yeah, that's
So-
what we're finishing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, I see I have to finish this part here too.
Okay.
If I was just putting the finish on, as you say, Robert, it wouldn't be so critical maybe. And for this demo, I guess it's not so critical. And in fact, at home, I would have a vacuum chuck that I would do this. I'd do the similar sort of thing with, but I put the vacuum on to hold it there. I wouldn't need this. Okay. I could actually switch at this point, because all this is I'm only gonna do the same thing again that I did on the inside, I'm gonna do on the outside. So for simplicity, I'm gonna stop here. I think you've seen enough about it. It would just be exactly the same. I'd turn it, sand it, seal it, sand it a little more just to denib it, put the Ford's Nova Silk on it, rub it in, 2-minute finish, bingo. So I'm going to stop. I'm not going to waste your time here and do that because it's not needed. But this was a way that you could see, because I'd already finished the middle, so I could turn down to it and finish the whole wall. But I'll pass that around. You can take a look at the finish. And of course, the fussier you are, the better it's going to be.
Richard, do you want to talk about the foam and your chuck that you've got here?
Oh, yeah. Well, all this
And-
is.
I'm just gonna zoom in a little bit more on that. Okay.
Usually, you have a piece of this closed cell foam that you hold there while you put the bowl up against it. And just about when you get it right, it falls out. Oh, shoot, you know.
Pretty good
Happens
demonstration.
to me, that does. So I thought I'll put a little hole in it, put a screw in there, and it's not going to fall out. So I can just place the bowl against it, cut some little slots in it so that it has some room to fold around the bend.
So that's foam.
It's closed cell foam from Michael's. They sell it in sheets, pack of sheets.
So is that what you use your screwed up bowls to make those little holding?
Pardon?
When you screw up a bowl and you don't want to throw it out, you just use that and put a screw in it and make a holding jig.
Could do, yes. Yeah, why not? I have lots of them, I guess.